Hi there.
Hi, welcome back to Curious Collection. I'm Will.
I'm Cinnamon.
Today I want to tell you a little story about a couple of businesses that we're aware of in our local area and some things as outside observers that we've seen, and then what we can do to diversify against the effects that those businesses challenged. So the first one was a local print shop. They had printed a lot of material for the 2020 election. Hats, koozies, flags,
T-shirts.
T-shirts.
Yeah, all of that.
Yard markers. They had a booming business in 2020 up to the election. And what ended up happening is within 6 months of that, their business disappeared. It was completely gone. They had dumped every penny into producing political items and just completely couldn't recover from that. That product was put up for auction at the local auction house, and there was some people that bought into that. One person had gone really heavy on it. They bought a bunch of that stuff up. They took it to the flea market, and they were doing very well. They had got the items at a very good price, and they just thrived even after the election selling political related materials. Around 2022, the holiday season, we're talking to this person who's a friend of ours, and they could not figure out why they didn't have any sales. They could not understand how in 2022, 2 years after the election cycle, their items were no longer relevant and people were no longer interested in buying their product. That was really sad for us to witness. Another business had was like an 80s type of like pop culture store, and they actually called themselves the Pop Store. Half their store, when you would walk in the door, was pop figures. Now this business actually went out of business 6 months ago. To me, that was the beginning of the Funko Pop decline. They found that even though they were selling in the local market at a brick and mortar, they were also selling online, and they just did not have the volume of sales or the profitability anymore to sell those products. So I think that there's a lot that can be derived from all three of these local businesses that really struggled. And my take is diversification. We talk about it, and we've been kind of leading up to this point, is that if you're not diversifying your business against challenges,
things are getting kind of scary. In my opinion, I'm looking at the big picture, listening to other YouTubers and seeing these closing stores, right? We're at the auction house and we see the evidence of people going out of business. And you hear about people going out of business, and it breaks your heart. But more than that, it's scary. I don't want us to go out of business, So we try to take things, when we have these fears, we try to plan ahead, right? Because like we said before, we're planners. That's what we do. So we don't come to something with just bitching about a problem. We try to come to something and bring some solution to the problem. That's what you say all the time.
Yes.
Don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is we're looking inward. We're looking and, okay, so I'm afraid of the business failing. What are the solutions that we're going to bring to the table?
So when you say you're afraid of the business failing, what you're actually talking about is you're afraid of slow eBay sales.
Absolutely.
Causing our business to fail.
Because like 99% of our business was tied to eBay.
Right.
We've talked about the fact that we are full-time eBay resellers.
Right.
And again, like we're seeing so many YouTubers, we're seeing so many, other local people that maybe work flea markets and stuff going out of business. And so we're trying to figure out how to protect ourselves. And the solution that we're coming up with is diversifying.
Right. And we're going to, kind of go into that a little further, in that we need to make sure that we're diversifying every aspect of our business. So one of the things that we talked about early in our marriage was that we didn't ever want to be in a position where we both worked for the same business, because, I knew somebody back in a former life. They had worked for the same company. That company filed bankruptcy. They both lost their job on the same day. And
That's
so,
scary.
right. So they're, in the situation where they were middle-aged, they're desperate, and they are going out and they're saying, hey, you know what? I just lost my job with 5,000 other people. What do I do now?
Right. And when you both lose your job together, like, that's everything.
Right.
So we had always, been in our marriage saying, like, we're not going to work for the same company.
Right.
We didn't even work in the same field.
Right.
Because
we worked
if
in
there
different
was
industries
a retail apocalypse, then
Right.
he may go down. But in medical, I'll be okay. And same thing. If there was some type of,
Right.
whatever.
Right. And I think obviously with our personal life and our personal finances, we know that we still have those options. So, but really, we want to stick with our reselling business. We love
being together. We
love spending time together. So, some of the things that we've talked about in some of our recent videos are, yes, we sell on eBay, but we just don't have one store. We have two. So we found yesterday our ad store was doing as much as our main store for most of the day. I mean, it was pretty incredible that only selling magazines and advertisements was keeping up with high-end jewelry and some high-end ephemera.
Yeah.
So I was very grateful that we had
the second
that
store. And then we did do a Whatnot show yesterday.
Right. And we did a Whatnot show, and it did a quarter of our total sales for our main store. So again, we're building layers of income. We're diversifying against anything. Yeah. So a lot of people will go, well, you know what? eBay is my bread and butter. That's my main. Okay. Start something extra. Start another side business off from that. It can be along the same line. Start on a different platform, or start on a different, start on Facebook Marketplace, hang out at the flea market. I know a vendor that he has a reselling business, and he goes and he hangs out at the flea market all day, and he actually buys more stuff than he sells because he's getting stuff from people that's a better, that's a deal that he can flip and make money on. So, he always brags about the fact that, well, yeah, I paid my booth rent, but I ended up buying as much as I sold. But the stuff that I bought was so much better than the stuff that I got rid of.
Right.
So, there's so many different things that you can do with this business just through reselling. We've talked about auctions. We've talked about different online platforms. We've talked about, a flea market is a form of brick and mortar. There's so many different opportunities there.
Right. We have the second store. We have, the auction house. We were actually just talking today. We think we've got a check at the auction house waiting for us. So that's another source of income, private sales, Facebook Marketplace, cross-listing. We haven't gone into the cross-listing thing so much. We kind of dabbled when Bonanza was new. That didn't really work for us, but that doesn't necessarily mean that some other cross-listing isn't going to work.
Right. You obviously have to find what works best for your business.
Right.
Whatever we're doing doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. We know that there's some resellers that have YouTube channels and they're monetized, and they can make some money on that as well.
Right.
So, if that's something that you're capable of, absolutely. There's people out there that do consignment on eBay or other sales platforms. And, that might be a good way if you proceed in a general caution. Right. You do need to be careful about getting involved people's money, and, you'd want to have a contract and stuff like that. But, that is also another way to pursue eBay sales on a, say a 50-50 split on the profit of those.
Be very, very careful.
So, something else that we've talked about is that, saving money for the difficult challenges, and tied into that, what does your banking situation look like? Do you have a separate account for your business as for your home? That's something that we established early on. Is before we ever got into this, the business needs to have its own account so that we can account for those funds separately.
Yep.
If something happens at the bank that your business is at, you might want to consider having a separate account for your household at a different bank. Or
again, diversification.
Have two different banks that you work with for one of those. There was a day that we went to that we had a deal set up. We went to the bank to take out money and the ATM was empty. Now, the next closest ATM from that bank branch is 20 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, there is another bank nearby. We have an account at the other bank and we're able to get money from that.
Right.
So, that can be a real challenge.
But even in our investment accounts, we have diversification,
Sure, Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because again, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket in any area of your life, right? Like and again, we're planners, we might catastrophize in our heads sometimes. But we're just trying to protect all avenues of our life.
So in that theme of things are scary, what are we going to do? We want to be smart with our capital, which we've talked about, and we want to make sure that we are investing that into exceptional items.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that can be something that's a great value that you can sell for a huge profit on a long tail item, or it can be something that you can pick up for 20, sell for 40, and you can, make $20 profit in a very short period of time. That's entirely up to you. But making sure that we're making smart buys. We joke about the fact that I was buying cat figurines, and the beauty of the cat figurine to me, and I know everyone out there is like, this is the dumbest thing. You could get them. I could get them 100 of them or something, and I'd pay $0.25 a piece, and then I could sell them for $10 plus shipping on top. And people would buy these stupid things. And
he says that they're recession proof.
Yeah, I literally think that ceramic cat figurines are recession proof, because if it looks like your cat, or the dog figurines are the same way. If you've got a Doberman and there's a Doberman figurine, people can't resist, and especially when you get it in the right price point, people, but I've given up on that. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad investment. It just means that, you definitely want to pick things that people want.
And the other part of being smart with your money, with your capital, making those exceptional buys, is that you have to list them. You have to, because the thing is, we talk about it all the time, that if it's just sitting in the shelf, if it's sitting in a bin, it's not making you money. So we have to get it out there so that it can turn around and make us money. Sometimes it's really hard to list the things that we have that aren't new and exciting. And I am so guilty of this. I'm like, I haven't made any new buys lately. So now all of my inventory is stale and old, and it's not exciting.
But
and
it's never been out in the public eye. So that
right. They might be, excited about it because it is new inventory to them. But to me, it's not. So it's not fun, and I'm not excited to take a bunch of pictures of it and then to sit there and list for hours. But the thing is that it has to make you money. If it's just sitting in a drawer, then it's not making us money.
Mm-hmm. So again, back to diversification, we talk about the fact that, I sell ephemera and collectibles, and you sell jewelry,
both fashion jewelry, like the costume jewelry, the vintage costume, and fine jewelry.
Right.
So those are two very different categories for buyers, right? They're going to bring very different people to the store.
Right. So as an example, when I'm looking here at our sales summary chart, and 49.5% of our sales this year have come from collectibles. And that means the other 51% are coming from other categories. 38.2% is coming from jewelry and watches. Well, we don't sell watches. It's all jewelry.
Yeah.
And then another 12% is coming from other places. So those other places would be, maybe one of those old figurines that I talked about, or items that we've consigned through the auction house, or, holiday items. So again, we're trying to diversify the product selection that we have within our store. We're trying to maintain themes, but we're trying to balance it out across multiple platforms,
right?
Multiple categories, because if you're the person who has all the political attire
and that's all you have,
when it's a not political year, you're going to struggle. And if you're the person that invested all your money in Funko Pops and people decided one day that they're not going to buy another Funko Pop, now you're in trouble.
Right.
So if the high-end jewelry for us isn't working because people are too cash strapped, then they're still going to want something nice. So we're going to have the costume jewelry.
Right.
If people decide that they don't want a cat figurine, now they want dog figurines, or maybe it's the holiday season and they want some holiday ornaments. You know, these things are constantly changing, and it's our job as business owners to have a feel and a hold on the market and understand the direction things are going. I talk about, I used to sell board games and puzzles in 2020, great categories to be in, and I did exceptionally well. We don't have a single board game in our store now. We don't sell pots and pans anymore.
Right.
Again, it's not that they're necessarily bad categories, but they don't have that same excitement and the same drive and the same collectability that they did just 4 years ago.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, what happens when a certain category dries up, right? We were at the auction house a few months ago, and somebody was getting rid of their entire Budweiser collection, right? And nobody wanted to bid on it. So if you were hard into bar wear, right? And you were hard into...
Just a few years ago, Steins were very popular. They're not popular now.
Right.
Budweiser collectibles, the Clydesdale lamps, and
or if you sell Nike shoes, what happens when Nike decides that they don't want their shoes sold anymore?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Vero, again, we're talking about Veros now, something totally different.
Right.
But
it happens.
If the brand that you're associating yourself with hasn't given you authorization to sell that product, then that could put your business at risk if you're too heavily invested in one specific field like that, or one platform. And that's really where we talk about platform risk, is that, for us, with 95% of our business coming out of eBay, we are at tremendous risk.
Yeah.
If one day they decide, well, we no longer want to associate with your business, we lose 95% of our sales overnight. And what do you do?
We've had a couple of scares
next day.
When we sold some jewelry, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can't tell if this," and it says in the category, in the title, and everything, that it was bovine bone or faux or just cream color, like all of those things. It doesn't matter. They're like, "No, we can't tell if this is ivory or if it's," you know what I mean? So they're like, "Okay, like this is your warning." Or when we had that vanity plate, and they're like, "This is your warning." Well, that's some scary, scary stuff. What if they decide that, like, they're just, you know what, we're going to kick you off the platform because that's all of our business is within that platform.
Right. And we've talked about the fact that we did have a suspension. We had a 3-day suspension over a state issued license plate. For whatever reason, eBay determined that it shouldn't be listed on the platform, and it was a third strike, and they booted us off the platform for 3 days. Well, 3 days doesn't sound like a lot, but 3 days is 10% of your month.
Yeah.
So to take a 10% knock, and that is,
and then you have to try to build yourself back up after you're back. I mean, it's a lot. And
that's a final warning.
Right.
A 3-day suspension is a final warning as far as I'm concerned. So, these are things that we're all at risk of. There are Veros, there's other platform risk. There's so much stuff out there. So we want to make sure that we're diversifying. Now, if you're just starting out, don't be afraid to get into eBay.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with having an eBay business. We still have
most of our,
But what I'm suggesting is, if you've been on the platform for any length of time and you value your business and you intend to stay with reselling, and it provides some type of substantial income to your household, you really owe it to yourself to diversify into multi-platform businesses. So, I think that kind of rounds out everything that we talked about.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to be doom and gloom. We really don't. But like I said, I am fearful, and because I'm fearful, like, we've talked about the fact that this show is like our journal, right? Of our business, of what's going on in our world at the moment. And, these are the conversations that we're having, because these are the conversations that we're hearing outside of our household as well. Other people that are in the business of reselling, other people who, like I said, we look around and we're seeing people go out of business left and right. So how do we protect ourselves? How do you protect yourself if this is, something that you're going towards as well? So again, we want to bring solutions to the table. We want to bring,
well, and we want to be proactive.
Yeah.
That's really it. Is, I don't want to wake up one day and not have been paying attention and get hit upside the head when, it's 2022 and I'm still selling political t-shirts. That's my fear, is that, your head's in the sand, you're not paying attention, you don't see it coming, and you get hit by the train.
Yeah, I don't want to be blindsided.
Right.
I don't want to wake up one day and realize that we had everything tied up into one thing and that thing popped.
Right. So. Let us know what you're doing to diversify your business. Let us know if you think it's important to diversify against platform risk, or, what your thoughts are on the conversation today. Your thoughts, obviously, we respond to every comment that we get, so we appreciate that. Please like and subscribe.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good luck to you out there.